Jason, my dad, he never even went to school. He doesn't even know how to write down his name. And my mom, she just went to middle school. But I don't know, my parents always used to tell me you were different. We didn't even have electricity until I was in high school. I told my dad, I want to be a doctor, but I did not get into medical school. My brother moved to United States and he told my dad, oh, nursing is one of the best profession if you want to make money. I don't know how he get all that information, but he was here. So I'm like, okay, I'll do nursing. I was 24 years old and I moved here in 2012. My first job was $28 an hour. Now I get paid $132 an hour. I work 2 days a week. I already maxed out my 401k. I already maxed out my Roth IRA for this year. Last year I made $263,000.
I've been having videos on my YouTube channel now for the last 4 years, and I've been doing podcasts for about 3 years. But in that time, I've never interviewed the person that I'm going to interview today, which is someone who I've been wanting to interview, well, at least for like the last 7 years. And all we do is talk about business, finance, and I've learned a lot from this person. So I am glad that I have her on this episode because in addition to her being my coworker, she's also the co-founder of the company that we built together at the beginning of this year. And we're going to be talking about that in this episode. But one thing that I really want to talk about is the fact that this person is, at least she considers herself to be financially savvy, but not savvy enough to know what her actual net worth is. So in this episode, what we're going to try to do is figure out what her actual net worth is. And we're going to do that by the end of the episode. But first, we want to get to know who this person is. So Sumit, I want you to introduce yourself and just let them know a little bit about yourself.
So, hello everybody. I'm Sumit Kaur, and me and Jason been working together for the last 8 years. And every time we see each other, we always talk about finances, or he will find me talking about finances, stocks, option trading, real estate. I always make fun of like, oh, me and Jason, we always talk about finances. That's how our interaction started at very first. More about me. I was born and raised in India. I did my bachelor's of nursing in India. When I moved here, I did my master's in nursing leadership. I was working in skilled nursing facility. That was the first job I could ever get into, and it took me almost 3 years to get out of that job, and finally moved into ER. I started first at Stockton, St. Joseph Stockton, and then my ultimate goal was always getting hired into Kaiser. I knew Kaiser was one of the company that pays nurses the best, so I just want to get into Kaiser. So I kept applying. It took me a year, and then I got into Kaiser, and that's the only job I have done in last 9 years. Been working at Kaiser more, same location with same people, and that's where I am.
Okay, I just want to clarify for everyone who's watching this video, we are not paid by Kaiser to say anything good or bad. I've been making videos on YouTube for the last 4 years and I talk very highly about Kaiser, and it's because I love working for them. I think it's the best thing that's ever happened to me and Monica. And I know not everyone's going to be satisfied with their employer. You know, no matter where you work, you're not going to be 100% satisfied. There are people that absolutely love where they work. There's people that hate where they work. And there's people that fall in the middle. But I'm one of the people that I really love where I work. And I think Sumit feels the same way because we wouldn't be where we are financially had it not been for Kaiser. And in addition to that, I mean, the ratios, like we get such good ratios and they actually adhere to them. That's what I love about it. Okay, so you said that you worked for 3 years in a skilled nursing facility or a nursing home?
Yeah, it was a skilled nursing facility.
All right, so what I want to do is I want to talk about how you ended up where you are today financially, because not every nurse is in your position right now. There were things along the way that allowed you to build and amass your net worth. So talk to me about your upbringing. Did your parents go to college? Do you have siblings? Talk to me about all of that.
Jason, actually, my dad, he never even went to school. He doesn't even know how to write down his name. And my mom, she just went to middle school. That's the only qualification they have. I have two siblings, two brothers. One of them did high school and the second did 1 year of college, and that's all. That's the only education background my family has. But I was always into doing something good with my life. I don't know, my parents always used to tell me you were different and you were always good with study. I do remember I was born in such a small town. We didn't even have electricity until I was in high school. So I still remember the days, like I will tell my dad, Dad, wake me up at 4 a.m. and he will turn on the lamp and I will study. And I'll wake up 4 a.m. He'll turn on the lamp, he'll leave it there. And sometimes he'll make me tea and all that. He's like, okay, if you want to study, that's your option. I was never forced to go to school, but I always wanted to do something good with my life. So I told my dad, I want to be a doctor. I did try, but I did not get into medical school. In India, they do pre exam, and I did good, but I did not do that good to get into one of the colleges I wanted to. But the same college offered me to get into nursing. So, I'm like, my dad always wanted me to be a nurse because my brother moved to United States and he told my dad, oh, nursing is one of the best profession if you want to make money. I don't know how he get all that information, but he was here. So I'm like, okay, I'll do nursing. I was never excited to be a nurse, but I was like, oh, I want to be a doctor. But I ended up doing nursing, and then I came to United States and I did my master's here. So my dad, he is a wealthy guy, but during my whole life, I did realize he did not make some of the best financial decisions. At one point, we bought a lot of land, but we end up selling it because my dad overspent his money. Second time, we bought a house in a big city, but for some reasons, he had to sell it. I feel like that was another reason he overspent the money. He did not evaluate the right amount of money he needed for the payments and all that. So I don't want to, I mean, say, I love him. I feel like he did a lot for us. He paid for my nursing school. I never had to work during my school, but I always felt like I want to do financially good with my life. And that's where I am right now.
Wow. So, first of all, I didn't know that your parents didn't go to school. So, that's news to me. But you said that your dad did well financially. He just had trouble managing the money properly, is what you're kind of saying.
Actually, in India, you will get money through the inheritance. So he got a lot of land, and he worked hard. He always worked hard. I feel like I got that from my father and from my mom. They always been such a hardworking parents. I have seen my parents doing like way above, like he will work in the farm for long time, long hours. But I could say, like, I think lack of education probably one of the reason where he didn't manage his money very well. So that's the reason. I feel like lack of education, lack of information about the resources, what he can do, how he can do. So he still owns a lot of land. He's a wealthy guy, but I feel like he never made good financial decisions, or he didn't do well with managing his money. That's what I want to say.
See, I think that's the problem that the general population has. Just know that's why
I
most of us are in a lot of credit card debt. We end up buying more than we can afford when it comes to our home. Just everything in general, if you think about it. I think the largest amount of consumer debt is in credit cards because
Yeah.
people just overspend. They don't know how to control it. And it's because we're not taught as kids and we're not taught in school how to manage our money. No,
Yeah,
that's
I want to speak to that. Like, some of our coworker, oh my goodness, it amazes me when you make about 130 to $150 an hour and you still have student loan. And one of the nurses, she's working with the same company for the last 24 years, and she still has student loan to pay along with credit card debt. So it surprises me. Like, first thing, people don't know what kind of debt it's good and what kind of debt it's bad. Like credit card debts, they're non-taxable. You are paying very high interest rate and it's not taxable. People don't make smart choices. So it's same thing. People are not doing good managing money. That's what And that's what made me, I'm like, no, I want to be financially smart. So I always learn about finances.
Okay, so let's talk about your move to the US. You said you ended up getting your bachelor's over there in India. At what age and what year did you move here to the US?
So I was 24 years old and I moved here in 2012. And at that time, I started my master's in leadership with Grand Canyon. I was just doing online while I was working in SNF.
And how much were you getting paid at the SNP?
Oh, my first job was $28 an hour
In California?
in
In Stockton,
California.
right?
It's it's nothing, you know. It's a golden living center. It's a sniff here in Stockton. Jason, for me, I feel like I had no resources. There was nobody
Mm.
from my family who worked in nursing. I had no friends group of people that I can talk to get into nursing. So what I did, I made a resume, I printed out my resume, and I drove around into even the hospitals, college, I mean, say the nursing SNFs. And I'm just like, okay, here is my resume. I'm a nurse. If you're looking for somebody, I can work. So after a week or so, I got called from this place and I'm like, okay, I'll work there. You know, that was my first job and I take it.
You know, one thing I've noticed about you is that you are not afraid to speak to people who you've never met before. Like you will just throw yourself out there.
You know, okay, okay. I want to say one thing, Jason. I feel like my English is my third language. Okay, I do so many grammar mistakes. Vocabulary is not good, but you know, first when I was new to United States, I was like, oh, I cannot. It's so hard for me to talk to people. But then I realized, you know, at one point, I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go and talk to everybody. Who, as far as they can understand me, I can understand them. That's all it matters. You know. At one point, I even decided to go learn English, but I'm like, no, forget about it. That's not going to make me rich. I'd rather learn something about finance. So here I am.
Okay, so in 2012, you end up moving to the US. And while you're studying for your master's, you're basically going to school for your master's online. You're
Yeah.
also working at the skilled nursing facility. And you graduate first and then leave the skilled nursing facility, or did you leave while you were still in school?
You know, actually, I mentioned my first job was in SNF at Stockton, but then I moved into Citrus Heights. They used to pay $35 an hour, so it was a little increase for me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to take another job. So that's how I moved. But it was a sniff too. From there, I was trying to get into a hospital because sniff, oh my goodness. I'm sorry to say, but I feel like that's the terrible place you can ever work. You are taking care of more than 30 people at a time. And it was hard. So I'm like, and you're not even getting paid though to do that. So I got into Methodist. Methodist, it's a small facility. It says Bruceville Terrace. It's their SNF, but it does fall under Dignity. So I learned if I can get into the Dignity into their system, it'd be easy to move around. So that's how I got into SNF with Dignity, and then a couple of nurses from there. They were going to St. Joseph Stockton. Then I learned that if I can commute to Stockton, I can get into hospital. And I appear, so I put an application, they called me, and I got my first ER job with St. Joseph Stockton.
Wait, how much did you make in the Dignity one at Methodist?
You know, they used to pay somewhere around $45 per hour. So that was
Oh,
another
okay.
improvement.
That's pretty
Yeah.
good. I mean, not
That was.
good in terms of like California, you know, but good in the sense that you were making $27 an hour when you first started.
Yeah,
Uh,
28, then I was
28,
making 45. So I just
28.
keep moving until I was like, you know, this is not. I used to tell my brother, you know, one day when I'll start making $10,000 a month, okay, then I'll be satisfied. And my brother always tells me, he's like, I know you very well, you won't be. And here I am.
So, what year did you move to Stockton in the ER?
So I moved there
Okay.
2016. Yeah.
Oh, so
Um,
okay, so 2012 you ended up moving to the US,
yeah.
right? And then you ended up working first was in the skilled nursing facility. Then you went to Citrus Heights. You worked there and then you went to Methodist Hospital. About how long did you work there before you ended up going to Stockton, St. Joseph's in Stockton?
The minimum requirement is 6 months, and that's all I completed. 6 months.
Wow.
And yeah, then when I moved to Stockton, St. Joseph, so it was the Kaiser does require 1 year, minimum 1 year ER experience to get into Kaiser. So as soon as I finished my 10 months, I start putting in application. I would say I was putting in application even before that, but I got my first interview with director at Kaiser Bors when I had just 10 months of experience. So they waited until I finished 1 year of experience so I can move it to Kaiser.
Wow. Wait, so definitely like by a year, you already had a job at Kaiser after a year at St. Joseph's.
That's it. Exact.
Wow.
Like exact. She just gave me the date. She's like, as soon as you finish your year, you can move into Kaiser.
Wow. And this was at the Kaiser you currently work in?
It's the yeah, that's the
Wow.
only Kaiser I ever worked for. I really want to say I have a lot of respect for our management. People always complain that oh management they don't like management, or some people have a view that Kaiser management is very political.
Mhm.
But I've been working for the same company. I love our director, manager. I never seen them just directly fire somebody. If you're doing really something wrong, they will give you option to leave.
Yeah.
I feel like that's very, very genuine, very genuine. So, and
I
it's a group of people. That's where you and me we become friends together.
So, did you like working at St. Joseph's?
Actually, I won't say that I really liked it, but I learned a lot. I learned a lot. Actually, it's a big ER, usually staffed with one or two doctors. So most of the time, you are end up putting your own orders in, including pretty much everything. They have like set orders for chest pain, set orders for abdominal pain. So you are doing everything. By the time sometimes doctor will come and see them, you have done everything for those patients, and labs are back. So I I feel it was a good base. It was good. I feel like I learned a lot from that.
Oh, I can kind of tell usually when a nurse comes from a place like St. Joseph's, Dameron, Right Out, because those are usually the nurses that really know their stuff. Because
Yeah,
you're working
because
with very little and you have to really understand the whole process of what's going on with the patient and how to treat them. Because
yeah.
your work, you don't have the support system that many large facilities have.
Yeah, and okay, don't get me wrong. There are a lot of new nurses, and you get to see the whole picture of the patients because you are doing pretty much everything for those patients. You're putting in orders, and you get to see the whole picture of the patient. So I feel like it's a good base for every nurses to start. Like, some hospitals you don't get to learn, but I feel like those are learning hospitals.
Yeah. Yeah. And how much were they paying you there?
So my starting salary over there was $48 per hour. So I'm not exactly sure about the differentials, but I do remember I used to make 63 or $64 an hour
With the differential. Yeah,
with the
that's
differential.
yeah, that's pretty decent. I mean, and this was in what year? 2014, 2015?
20 I left them at in 2017.
Okay. Yeah, because when I was working for Sutter Roseville, I was making $65 an hour. So it was pretty comparable, right? Like we were making about the same amount.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
that's what I kind of noticed. Like with the Dignity and Sutter, they kind of pay very similar salaries. But then when you get into place, the UC hospital system, they'll pay a little bit more. And then obviously Kaiser is like leagues
Yeah.
above all of them. Yeah. So while
Yeah,
you were
and
doing all of this,
I just want to mention, but I think Sutter did the pay raise because the nurses at Sutter they get paid very well now in comparison
wow,
to
that
Dignity.
is true. Yeah, I have their pay scale. Actually, speaking of which, we're gonna talk about this later, but I want to talk to you guys, all of you who are listening in, about an app that we're building. And I'm gonna talk to you guys about it later because I used to sell spreadsheets like through my YouTube channel. I created a website for it. And the spreadsheets would allow you to calculate your salary in like the top 20 hospitals in California. I'm trying to somehow integrate that into our app. So if you guys ever use our app, you'll also be able to do that. And the spreadsheet also allows you to calculate your after tax income. So me and Sumit, we're working really hard to try to integrate that in the app, and we'll talk about it later. But Sumit, let's go rewind. While you were doing all of this, transferring from one facility to the other and working all these jobs, were you living with your parents during that time?
Actually, yeah. And let me tell you, Jason, I don't know if it's embarrassing or not, but I was 29 years old when I moved out of out of the house. Most of the time, parents they do kick out their kids when they're 18, but no, I was lucky enough to stay with my parents. That helped me saved a lot of money, a lot of money. I was not paying any rent, and we will share groceries. It's nothing like we had any set paid, like everybody has to contribute this much money. And it was a good family time. I get to spend time with my niece and nephew at that time. But it helped me build my base, my financial base.
Okay, so what exactly were you doing with your money this whole time?
At that time, I was new, learning the whole system. So the best thing I did is just saved all of my money. So in India, most of the time you don't take a credit card debt. Like there is no credit card. Banks won't give you any credit card. So you are not making payments. So the biggest payment you will ever make is your house. You will get financed that, or you will finance your car. So I had a mindset that no loan for me, no payment. I feel like if you are paying any payment to somebody else, people are smart enough. They're making money off of you. They're not lending you money for free. So people are making money off of you. So I always had that mindset like, no, I'm not going to pay anybody. Whatever I'm going to buy, it will be cash. So I saved enough for my car. And here, this is my car. I bought myself first car. So that's how I
Wow.
kind of did.
Wait, what kind of car did you
Yeah,
buy?
I was lucky enough. My brother shared his.
Wait, your
Okay,
brother shared his
let me
what?
tell you, I started his car with me until I was making enough money. So yeah, we used to share our car. Okay, he'll drive it to work, and I'll drive it to work. We kind of shared it. And then I came up with the amount of money, and I bought my car. And my first car was Honda Accord. I feel like Honda
So
and
typical.
Toyota, they're the cheapest car ever, and they're durable. Okay.
That's true. Absolutely.
Yeah,
My first car that I
yeah.
ever purchased, it was me and Monica when I started working as a nurse, and then she was gonna get a job offer. I was like, well, we should really get a car, but let's try to be frugal about it, right? So we bought a $13,000. It's called a Chevy Spark. And when I bought that car, I said, wow, this is like a really basic car, but we're gonna make do with what we can. So that car didn't even have automatic windows. You don't press a button to like roll down the window. You had to like crank the window down. And this is in 2013.
Manually.
It's a brand new car, but in 2013. And it got so upsetting in certain situations because if we were in a hurry and it was hot outside and you wanted to get some fresh air as soon as you got in the car, you had to like lean over and like roll down the window. So we ended returning that car and we traded it in for a Buick Enclave, which was like probably the biggest mistake, but it was one of the nicest cars we had. So we went from a $13,000 car to it was a used Buick Enclave. It wasn't brand new. It was like 3 or 4 years old, and it was a $29,000 car. So we upgraded because at that point
Wow.
Monica was going to start working, and we were like, oh, we have enough money, we can
Oh,
afford this, and we take a lot of road trips with our family. Until this day, I actually love and I prefer
yes.
to have an SUV or at least a 7 passenger vehicle because we do take a lot of road trips. And you see, to me, like we're always on the road, we're always out. And if you know anything about New York City, oh my gosh, the hard part about New York City when you have a car is finding parking. So I would go to work sometimes
No.
30, 40, 50 minutes early just to find parking because I had this large
Oh,
SUV that I could barely fit between two cars. Sometimes I would have to park the car like a 15, 20-minute walk. I did that for about 8 months to almost a year before I said to Monica, we need to sell this car and go back to the small car again. But this time, when we
yeah.
traded that one in and went back to the small car, we got the $15,000 car instead of the $13,000 car because we wanted the automatic windows.
Oh, I'm glad it
So, but
worked.
till
Yeah.
this day, we
Yeah.
have that really small car. I don't know if you remember seeing it, but that's the one that we've always had since we lived in New York.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah. I have seen you driving that to work sometime.
It's funny because
Yeah.
here in California, everybody drives big trucks. So when they see this tiny little thing, they just
Big
laugh at me.
trucks.
They're like, "Why are you driving such a small car?" Okay, so you
That's
ended up
true.
buying a Honda
Yeah.
Accord, and you said in 20 when what was it? You were 24 years old when you ended up moving to the U.S. and you continued going to school while you were here at 24 years old. But by the time you were 29, you moved out of your parents' house. Why did you move out of your parents' house
Yeah.
at that point and not earlier or later?
Okay, so the reason for moving out, I got married. That was the reason that I was married. I wanted my we cannot live with our parents. So, so it was a my me and my husband's decision that we want our own place. So we lived in a small apartment and we just kept saving whatever we had. So that apartment was cheaper too. So it was not very expensive. So we were able to save a lot of money.
Okay. And how much were you able to
Yeah.
save during that time that you lived with your parents?
Okay, I'm not sure of exact amount, but it was somewhere around $280,000
Wow,
when
so you
I was
saved
still living with
every
my
penny.
parents. Every penny, every penny. I'm
Wow.
telling you. So what I did, I just bought my car, and the only expense I used to have is my phone bill or whatever I eat out. And my mom, she's a good cook, so she used to cook a lot, so I don't even have to eat out a lot. So that's how. Yeah, I saved pretty much every penny of it.
I think about when my own daughter, Danica, when she graduates, first of all, she's living in our house. She doesn't have to pay us any rent. I'm not asking for anything. She has a job. I told her she doesn't have to work. But thankfully, she saves a large portion of her income, like about 70 to 80% of it. And she puts it into the Roth IRA that I told her to open up. So I'm glad that she's doing that. And she's 18. She just turned 19. So she's at least doing it at a very early age so that by the time she graduates as a nurse, her net worth should be higher than most of her peers. But if she chooses to live with us after she graduates, we told her that's an option. She can work as a nurse because I see the position that you're in.
Yeah,
And I'm like, well, if
yeah.
Donica can go to school, graduate as a nurse, and then work as an ICU nurse and become a CRNA, then she can continue investing her money while
Yeah.
she's doing all of that. And by the time she's a CRNA, maybe she
Yeah.
can retire me if this business doesn't work out.
Hope so, it will work out. But yeah,
It will.
I feel like
Absolutely.
people underestimate the value of first thing you have a family support. It's I feel like okay, if for personal reasons, if you cannot live with your family, okay, that's totally up to you.
Mhm.
Thing. But I feel like financially, I feel like this is one of the best decision. You can help your parents to pay some of the bills and save rest of the money. And I feel like, Jason, when you are very young, you're putting $50 a month. That turns out to be a big amount of money when you're 65. Rather, you start when you're already 50 years old. That $50 won't take you far. So that's why I want to mention you mentioned that Danica has a Roth IRA. I have twins, I have two toddlers, and I'm contributing money to their Roth IRA, and it's about $2,400 a month, and each of them, their accounts have grown up by $2,200 already. I don't know if I'm going to die rich or not, but they will be wealthy kids because I've
Hold
been
on,
putting
hold
money
on.
into
Let me
their
stop. Let
retirement
me
fund.
stop you right there. You said you're contributing 2,400 per month?
No, sorry.
Oh,
$2,400 per year. It's not a month because
gotcha.
you
Okay.
still gotta stick to the Roth IRA contribution limit.
Yeah.
So I put money into their custodial Roth IRA, but for kids, there is no hard and fast rule. They have to have earned income, and we do run a business. So I show them as I use them as for marketing our company, and I have a checking account for them. So the U.S. Bank is the only bank that will help. That will allow your kids when they're at that age to open a checking account for them. So I have their account in there, and we pay them every month. So $200 each, we pay them, and at the end of the year, I'll transfer that money into their custodial Roth IRA, and that's where their money grows. I do manage it all too. So I manage all of our Roth IRAs. I do manage everything. But
Sumi, I saw there's this guy on Instagram that I just his videos, I ran into them recently. I guess he was being interviewed on YouTube by this guy that I follow. It's like a podcast where he talks about growth and how to grow your Instagram or your YouTube channel really quickly. Well, this guy, he grew his subscriber count from like 0 to 100,000 in less than a year. And
uh-huh.
I went into his Instagram account and I saw that his most popular video had something like 10 million views. And he was talking about something like the 7 traits that Jewish people have that differentiates them from everybody else and what makes them so successful. And one of the things he talked about was how in the United States, I think the Jewish population is under 10%. I don't remember the exact number, but something like even under 5%. I believe it's like 3%. But they own about 30% of the wealth in the US, something to that effect. Don't quote me on it, but it's like a really high number.
Yeah.
And he talked about the reasons why that is. One of the reasons is that they try to make sure that not only are their kids successful and have an inheritance, but
Yeah.
also their grandchildren and their grandchildren's children have an inheritance that they can leave for them, right? So
Yeah.
they make sure that they have enough assets to leave behind, not just their children, but their entire lineage. And I thought about that and I'm like, that's really hard to find in other cultures.
Yeah.
But you do see it amongst the Jewish community. And, it's actually pretty common too with others like Asians in India. That's common too. Like, that's why you see a lot of doctors will try to like leave a lot behind for their children, not in just in terms of like financial or
Yeah.
financially, but like knowledge. They try
Yeah.
to instill a lot of knowledge in their kids. That's hard to find nowadays also in the US because you see that we don't teach our kids the importance of personal finance and caring about their family and making sure that they look out for one another. I
Yeah.
mean, I wasn't born in the US, but I see it because in the Hispanic community, we kind of look out for each other. However, when it comes to finances, it's the exact opposite. In
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
Hispanic community, that's why you see that a lot of Hispanics aren't as successful financially as the Jewish community. Same thing with blacks. You don't
Yeah.
see them, you don't see them to be at the same level as the Jewish community. And it's pretty sad. And I feel like this is why I created the YouTube channel, because I need to educate everybody. We don't want just one community in the US to be successful. We want everybody to be successful.
Jason, something, yeah, I totally believe in generational wealth. So you can see I'm a very low maintenance person. I don't need a lot of stuff.
Let me cut you right there. For all of you, you don't know Sumi. Okay, so this is the most I've ever seen her do for herself when I'm talking about appearance. She
Yeah.
doesn't usually care that much about it. Okay.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like, you know what? As long as you have everything that you need with your family, with your finances, then it doesn't matter how you look. It really doesn't at the end of the day. And
Yeah.
I've noticed that too with very successful people. I'm talking about people who have like tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. Look at Bill Gates. He doesn't dress over the top. Look at Mark Zuckerberg. Look at
Yeah.
Elon Musk. They just don't care,
Yeah.
right?
To me too. Like, yeah, I feel like I don't need to. First thing, I feel like I don't even have that much time to think, oh, this is how I want to be shown up today. But, to me, I feel like low maintenance, I don't even need a lot of stuff. All I care about is comfort, the time with my family, a quality time with my
Yeah.
family. I work 2 days a week. I raise my own kids. My kids never been to daycare. It's something. Okay, it's nothing I'm opposite to daycare. It's first thing I wanna raise my own kids. I want to learn first from me, and then you go to the word and then you learn from them. I want to prepare their mindset, be there for each other, be there. Being a twin, you have to be there for each other. And other things I'm teaching my kids is, for example, okay, other day my son is like, first they don't usually ask for, oh mommy, I need this and this. No, they don't usually ask for, but if it is something, I'm trying to make their brain rationalize. So my son asked for a truck and I told him, if you want this truck, mama needs to go work extra. Do you want to give up on our time? He said, no, I don't want you to go to work. Okay. So that's good. Do you want me or you want that truck? So other things I'm trying to teach them, do not fall for materialistic stuff. Raise your own values, believe in your own values, and be a good human. Be a good human. Be financially smart. Be happy in yourself. Just focus on your happiness. Just mind your own business. You don't get to, you're not born to correct the world. You are just born to be a good human and be a good citizen.
I agree. Okay, so let's go back to this story. At
Yeah.
29, you moved out with your husband because you
Yeah.
got married. So you're like, I can't live in this household with my husband and my parents together. And you had about $280,000. I
Yeah.
just gotta say though, not everybody can do that even if they lived with their parents. Most people aren't willing to do that. The majority of people would be spending that money on buying cars,
Yep.
buying luxury items, eating out, traveling with their friends, doing all these things that you see on TV. And that's what another thing that I kind of wanted to get at. The people that we see working the most amount of hours at work. Think about
Yes.
your coworkers. If you're watching
Yeah.
this, think about your coworkers, the ones who own the most expensive items, the ones
Yep.
who own all the luxury bags,
Yeah.
the luxury cars, the ones that go on all these vacations. You may think they're more successful than you. First of all, most of us, we make about the same amount of money. We're all nurses.
Yeah.
But secondly, the ones that do spend money like there's no tomorrow are the ones that are the brokest. They're the ones that have no money, no savings in their bank account. They're the ones that have no investments.
Yeah.
Trust me, this is a fact. I mean, I remember seeing a story about this guy who pretended to be like him and his wife, had millions and millions of dollars in net worth. They owned a mansion in Long Island, one in Manhattan. And it turns out that the guy was broke, nearly going bankrupt, and he didn't want to tell his wife about it. And
Oh,
he just
oh.
portrayed his life as if he was this successful person that could afford all these things. But in reality, he was in so much debt, and debt collectors were after them. He ended up committing suicide because he couldn't afford to pay all these debts.
Yeah, I just want to say, to me, being rich is if you are going through the hardest time in your life, you lost your job, you have no other source of income. Being rich means you can live without a job for next 6 months. That's called being rich. You are able to afford your life. Doesn't matter what situations you're going through in your life. It's able to afford your life, and you don't need to show off so much. I feel like the poor people tend to show up so much, and or they waste their
I
money.
look, I agree. First of all, I grew up in what we call the projects in New York City. So the projects are public housing. This is
Yeah.
housing for people who can't afford to rent their own apartment at market rate, right?
Yeah.
So they go to the government and they ask for assistance. And in doing so, the government will provide you with housing that's low cost. And so because my mom could not afford the general market rate apartment for us to live in, she ended up getting subsidized housing, which was public housing.
Yeah.
And I think we were paying something like $500 a month for a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartment. However, the living conditions in these places are awful. There's urine in the elevators, feces all over the premises. And people who live there are the type of people that are always doing drugs, always in jail or committing
Yeah.
crimes. So it's scary to live in these places. But I would often see people pull up to the building in Mercedes-Benz, in Lamborghinis, even cars
Oh.
that you would think these people cannot even afford, which they
Yeah.
probably they can't. A lot of them is probably drug money. But
Yeah.
people who would live in the projects
Yeah.
but can't afford to get out of the projects because of the stuff that they buy.
Yeah, that's so crazy. Jason, I forgot to mention before I moved out from my parents' house, I ended up buying my first real estate. That was a small apartment. That was my first ever experience with real estate in America. I didn't know, like, I had no information or education except just one thought in my head. If I want to be successful, if I want to be financially good, I have to invest in real estate. So I saw this property and I calculated my own math like, okay, even if I don't buy this property cash and I finance it, that property was listed for, it's a small apartment, 2 bedroom, listed for $67,000. So I just calculated, I'm like, even if I rent it out, so it was a Section 8 property, so you can rent it out to people who has Section 8. So if I collect $1,000 rent, I'm like, if I don't make money in anything, the property can pay itself within next 7 or 8 years. So I'm like, okay, that seems to be a good investment. I don't need money from real estate today. I can just live off of the money I'm making. So I'm like, okay, that's a good investment. So, but I still end up buying it cash. You know me, I hate loans. So I bought it for $67,000. Then I had no information about how Section 8 works, how to apply for it, how I can get the candidates. So I did my YouTube search, learn about it, went to the county office, put in application. And then I'm like, okay, I can list it on Craigslist. I listed it on Craigslist, and let me tell you, it was one of the alien who worked in a care facility, and she applied for it. So actually, it was not in a good area. I would say, okay, that's not a place I will ever live or I will raise my family. It was very poor community, so I think that was the reason it was cheap. So I asked her, I'm like, it's not safe there. Are you sure, being an alien, you want to live in that kind of situation? She's like, oh yes. She was not a Section 8 candidate. So I'm like, okay, as far as you can pay the rent. So I rented out for 1,400, and and that property has HOA for $250. So that's how that was another source of income for me. And because I bought it cash, so the only expense it had is taxes and the insurance. So after that, I get to save the whole amount of money. And yeah, I sold that property later on for 167,000. I could have sold it for more because the market, after COVID, the market went up. But I'm like, okay, my I had a margin, like as soon as I'll make $100,000 out of this property, I'll be out. So so I sold the property. And when I sold it, there was another learning curve for me. So when I talked to my CPA, I'm like, oh, I sold it for 100,000. I made $100,000 on it, and they were like, oh, you're going to end up paying taxes. So I'm like, no, I don't want to pay no taxes on it. If I will be paying, it'll be 33,000. So then I get to learn about 1031 exchange. So if you sell your investment property within 45 days, you have to buy another property, and that has to be for investment too. And that in that way, you don't have to pay taxes on the money you made. You can just buy another property with it. So I'm like, okay, I have 45 days, so I'm going to look for another house. So that's how the house we live in, this is the house I end up buying, and I rent it out for, there is no minimum requirement how long you need to rent it out, but I rent it out for a year just to be on the safe side. And then we moved in.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, okay, my God, I swear. You know what? We need to have a podcast every week. We could go on for years talking about stuff like this. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so you said to yourself you wanted to sell it once it reached 100,000, but obviously during COVID, everyone wanted to buy a house because
Yeah.
the interest rates were so low.
Yeah.
You said that you could have possibly sold it for more. I don't know. I kind of, if you, it depends on how long you would have waited, because I kind of tend to disagree with that a little bit. I feel like the market, because the interest rates have gone up so much, nobody's willing to pay as much for homes as they
Uh-huh.
used to back during COVID. Because during COVID, there were lines of people wanting to buy houses.
Actually, let me tell you. What made me sell the property? Because at that point, I got pregnant with twins. So, I'm like, okay, I'm making money on this property. So, we actually had a plan that we are going to buy this house. We need a house to raise our kids. So, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna buy it, rent it out for a year, and then gonna move in. So it was actually a plan in place. So that's how we. I'm like, okay, I made my $100,000, and let me tell you, so the house we bought it, I bought it cash without any loan. So that was another thing. I needed money. I didn't have that much saved. Actually, I did had more than that saved, but at that time I put so much money into stock market. I was invested more than $400,000 in stock market.
400,000?
Four
Wait, what year
hundred
was this?
thousand.
This was by 2020 at this point, right?
It was 2020. It was 2020. And let me tell you, so that's when I'm like, okay, stocks make. So one of our coworkers, Jay Ramos,
Yeah.
he's such a good guy. So he taught me, he was talking about stocks. And I told him, I'm like, Jay, I want to learn about it. He's like, okay, you need to come on your day off and I'll give you time and you have to learn it. I'm like, okay, if you're willing to teach, I'm willing to learn. So he told me to watch a couple of YouTube videos before you get into it. So I did watch a couple of videos, but he taught me two times. Like we get together and we sit and we talk about or two times, and at that time I learned about option trading, and I'm like, oh, that's good. And that was a learning curve. That was another learning curve for me. So when so first thing I bought, my stocks was UVXY. Remember, with the 2020 crash, the market was going down. That was another coworker, Sandeep Tendal. Do you remember
Oh my
him?
gosh, yes.
That guy did retire at 55, all investing into stocks. So he
See,
told me, he's like, if the market goes down, you should buy UVXY. That's opposite to the stock market. So UVXY, it is indicator for the instability in the market. When there is, you don't know what's going to happen. So that indicator goes up. So I'm like, okay. So I bought 800 shares of that thing.
how much is
And it
that?
was very cheap. Actually, let me tell you, I bought it for $8. And when it went up to $16, I'm like, oh, that's good. I doubled my money and I was out. But let me tell you, that's when I learned. So I keep tracking UVXY. I bought it, sold it, bought it, sold it. And one time it hit $135, and
Wow.
I bought shares at 135, and it went up to 170. I did not sell it. It did drop down. And that's when I learned another thing, that you do not chase a stock. But the first year I made about $75,000 in stock trading. So, next year, by it was end of 2020 when I made that much money. And in 2020, I learned I lost $120,000 in stock market.
In
you know,
2021? That
a
is
hundred. It's huge. But I was okay. I feel like in stock market, you don't learn until you get burned. It's okay. At one point, it feels like it's gambling, especially when you don't have no knowledge about it. You're like, oh, this thing is making me money. Okay, let's put more money into more money. And at that time, there was Nordic American Tankers, NAD. That was an oil company, and their stock, I bought it. I bought worth of $72,000. Within the same day, I made $14,000. So I become greedy. I'm like I'm like, oh, it's very easy money. So that's how I end up doing so many mistakes with stock market, that the 2021 I lost about $120,000. Then it took me at least 2 more years to learn everything properly, that stock market is a long-term investment. I cannot be rich overnight. Some people do get lucky, they rich overnight. But then now I invest into way more stable stock, and those are for long term. Now I invest into dividend stocks, I invest into stocks that growth stocks. So I do option trading, but I do it on very safe side. What I can afford, those are the only things I risk now. Last year I made $110,000 in stock market. So I got all my money back. Actually, I still profit more than $37,000. But
wow.
last year, yeah. So, but right now, whatever I'm invested, I'm positive for this year is about $54,000.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I really wish we could just keep going. But Sumit, we need to get to the whole premise of the beginning of the episode. I said we're going to get to find out what your net worth is. Okay. So now we're going to do the part everybody's been waiting for. We're going to try to calculate your net worth.
Actually, I'm excited. I want to know what I'm worth.
The fact that you don't know this is astonishing to me. I don't get it. I don't know how it's possible. Someone who's so smart financially but doesn't understand this part. We're gonna start with the assets. How much is your primary residence worth?
So I bought it for 520. Right now, a house completely similar to our house got sold for 565
Oh,
in August. So it's somewhere around 565.
okay. And how much did you put down, or did you end up paying cash? How did you buy it?
I bought it cash. So,
Oh my
Jason,
God.
okay, I felt like that was not probably the financially smart decision at that time. I was pregnant. Um,
Girl,
so
you have, listen to me. It is a very smart decision. You know why? Because you don't have to worry about a mortgage.
That's the only positive about it. But
I
at
know.
that time, the
Yeah.
interest rates were cheaper, so I could have kept the amount of money. But I was pregnant, dealing with kids, so it was a lot. So I was like, no, 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 I'm just gonna pay it off and have the financial freedom. And I feel like it turns out to be really good because I just work 2 days a week. My husband worked 2 days a week. That's all we work right now, and we
Exactly.
can afford a beautiful life. We still travel the world, and
You
it's
know,
everything's working out.
you just pulled a Dave Ramsey move by purchasing this house in cash. Because that's what Dave Ramsey would say is just buy it in cash, save all the money and buy it in cash.
You won't believe like how much these companies charge in interest. So if you buy a house for 520, by the time you're gonna end up paying it off like in 30 years, your
Yeah.
house is gonna be close to like $1 million. It's
That's
gonna,
yeah. No,
yeah.
that's true. That's true.
Sometimes the interest will
Yeah.
cost you more than what your house is worth
Mm-hmm.
off.
Yep,
So
yep,
that's why.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's go over some of the other things. If something is not listed here, you can just tell me and I'll add it. Okay.
Okay, let's talk
Um,
about properties first. So that is my primary house. I do
okay.
have a rental.
Rental property. Okay.
Yeah. I bought it for 435, and we paid
Wait, Sumit. When you say you bought something for a certain amount, you got to tell me whether you put money down or you bought it in cash because it seems like you keep buying everything in cash.
actually for that one we paid just 20% down, because that one it was an investment property, and I got the interest rate 1.9% on it.
Wow.
And so I was like, no, I'm just gonna lock the interest rate.
Wow.
So I rent it out for $2,700 right now. That is cheaper in comparison to the market, but my tenants been there for 4 years. They're very good people, and they keep the property very nice, neat and clean. So I'm like, I don't want to raise their rent, and they're willing to stay. They're taking really good care of our property. So we got a loan for 15 years. Out of that, we own the property for 6 years.
Okay.
So we still have 9 years of loan worth of
Uh-huh.
it. But the loan monthly amount, it's 2,200, but I pay
Okay.
biweekly. So we pay 1133
Per week.
biweekly per two
Oh,
weeks. Per
gotcha.
2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So basically you have $500 left over after your tenant pays the rent.
Yeah, I just want to say this property does cover the insurance and one payment for the taxes. The other payment, I usually end up paying some out of my pocket, but that doesn't hurt. It's about $2,700 a year, so that does not hurt. That property covers most of the stuff itself. It's a kind of not brand new, 2018 built house, so there is nothing we have to do so much to repair. So the tax is the only thing. One installment of the tax kind of I pay some amount.
Gotcha. Okay. So in total, how much would you say you're collecting from the property after you consider all the expenses? Maybe like $100, $200 a month?
So it kind of balances out. But the house is gonna be paid off in like,
Exactly.
yeah.
Okay. So on the left-hand side, you said you bought it for 435,000.
Yeah.
How much do you think it's worth right now? Or how much do you owe on the mortgage, I should say?
Okay, so right now we still owe the last payment I checked, it was 223,000, somewhere around there.
Okay.
Yeah.
223,000.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Now we have, let's see, any other stuff. You don't have student loans, so we're gonna put zero for that one.
Yeah.
You don't have a
I
car
have
loan, zero. Credit card,
I
zero.
have two cars, and cars are paid off.
Okay.
We own my husband owns a trucking business.
A
Yeah.
trucking business. And let's see, your stock portfolio. Let's go over that. How about that first?
Oh my goodness. I just
And you
had
have
that
separate
that
stock
pic-
portfolios, right? So we need to like come up with a solution for this one. I'll just like
yeah.
separate them if you want.
Actually, I'll give you the lump sum of all total.
Okay.
Give me a second.
All right.
So in my Charles Schwab, everything is worth 527
Five.
197. Yeah, 527
My gosh.
197. And in my Robinhood, I have $142,000.
42. Okay. All right.
That's what I am worth today. Like, the stocks are worth today.
And then we have your 401k. Do you remember how much you have in your 401k?
Last time I checked, it was somewhere around $297,000. Yeah.
Okay. Do you see this number?
Oh,
What the what the
Yeah.
you
And
mean? Come on! What look at this. This is insane.
oh,
Oh
you
my
know,
gosh.
let's
Oh
add up.
wait, no, hold on, hold on. I made a mistake. This is a negative. Okay.
Okay. Yeah, okay. So yeah, 17.
1.7. That's insane. Oh my gosh. Oh wait, we need to also consider how much are your vehicles worth?
Okay, so we just bought, I'm still driving Toyota and Honda. So we just bought a Toyota Camry hybrid. It was like we bought it 2 months ago, $34,000. So it's probably worth like 26,000 right now. Because
You
yeah,
bought it in cash?
yes,
Okay, remember you have to you got to remind everybody that you're buying all this stuff in cash.
yeah.
Checking and savings account. Do you want to talk
Uh,
about that?
yeah, yeah. Yeah. So we have another car, Honda Pilot. We bought it for we bought it that one cash too. It was at that time it was $42,000, but that
Uh-huh.
was about in 2018. So I think the car probably worth like $10,000 right
Yeah.
now,
Okay.
somewhere there.
So
Yeah,
$36,000 in vehicles, assets, right? Because
yeah,
you don't owe anything on them. You don't have a
yeah.
car note. You have
No,
565,000 asset value for your primary residence
uh-huh.
with nothing that you owe on it because you purchased it in cash.
Yeah,
You have $435,000 asset value for your rental property, but you owe about $223,000 on it,
yeah.
right? And then you have a retirement fund, which has about $297,000. You have a stock portfolio of 669,000. We're not even talking about all the other stuff because your business and all these things. So
Yeah.
let's keep going. Okay, so checking account,
You
savings
know,
account.
for the retirement, I
Yeah.
want to mention that when I work with Dignity, I have some money in Fidelity that is around $48,000 that I collected from working in SNF when I was contributing to my 401k and from Dignity. It was combined.
Okay.
It's in
Let's add that in here. Hold on. Okay. Fidelity and 42.
somewhere around 48, 48. No, no, no. Last time I checked, it was like 48,000, but it's been a while. I checked. It's been like
Okay.
good 3, 4 months.
48,000. Okay. All right. Now, all the other stuff. Keep going. Keep going. We're gonna keep going until you finish.
I don't have that much money. Jesus.
Girl, yes, you do. Okay.
Okay.
How much is your truck worth?
Oh, that one, it was we bought my husband bought it for $170,000, but he bought it in 2019, I would say. Yeah, 2019 he bought it and it was like $170,000. Uh
How much would you say
100.
it's worth now? Like
Yeah,
110,000?
yeah, or 100,000. I would say 100,000. Yeah,
Okay.
and we bought that one. I took a loan for 30,000 just to build the business credit on it. That we paid it off within a year, so it's pretty much like it's completely paid off. We
That's
owe
crazy.
nothing on it. Yeah,
Oh my gosh.
yeah.
All right. Now what about savings account or
You
checking
know,
account?
so he actually for his business, he bought the truck and then he needed a trailer, so that one was $67,000 and we bought it cash. That would be worth somewhere around 30,000, even if it lost the value. But I don't see it lost 50% of it. But I'm not good at what exactly.
It's insane. So right now, the only debt that you have is the rental property,
That's
and
it.
it's 223,000.
Don't
But
forget, California does charge a lot of property taxes every year. I hate
yeah,
that. that's
that
the
is very
only
true.
that's the only bill I ever pay.
That is so true. Equals.
Jason, I want to mention, like in our culture, in Indian culture, we use not use like during marriage, you have to have a lot of gold. So gold is something I love to invest. I'm all
Do
about gold. It's
you
nothing
own
I will
gold?
put on every day. I own more than 1 kilogram of gold. Like it's just I love to buy those necklaces. All of jewelry.
Oh my
We are
gosh.
all into it.
Yeah.
That's the only time I will show off when I dressed up as a Indian culture girl. A lot of gold in the hands, in the necklace. That.
Okay, so how much do you think that's worth?
You know, 1 kilogram gold for today, it's worth a lot because, the gold prices are high. So, oh, that's hard to calculate. Okay, let me tell you. 3 grams of gold is worth $3,200 right now.
3,200. So 3 grams of gold is
Not,
3,200.
is it 3 ounces or three? It's
Let me look
one,
this up. I am just
but
gonna
what you
Google it
call
real
it?
quick.
Yeah, can you look it
Let me
up? I
Google
never
it. I'm
looked
gonna
it.
Google it real quick.
I can't.
How much is a gram of gold worth? Okay.
Or you can just simply Google. Like I easily have more than 1 kilogram gold.
Okay, today's price per gram, $114 per gram.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
You have 114,000 in gold.
That's it. Okay, that's okay.
That's it?
Honestly. Oh,
Oh
when
gosh.
I pay when I pay those people when I buy
Mhm.
gold, they charge a lot of money.
Okay, so 114,000. Anything else?
No.
Okay, look.
That's pretty
You
much
see
it.
this number? This is how much you have in assets. Can you see that?
2.294. Yeah, I can see
Yes.
that.
Subtract 223,000 from that because that's your only liability. And this is your current net worth.
Yeah, but me, my husband, yeah, we got IULs. I even got
Girl, can you just tell me all of it?
so yeah. So I got IUL for me, and both of my kids have IULs already. And my husband has term life insurance. I do have term life insurance. We already established the estate planning for our kids. So how it's gonna go to them, everything's already planned. We already have a trust. So
You know what I like about your strategy
uh-huh.
is the majority of your investments are in a vehicle that's not depreciating through inflation. Because if you think
Yes.
about it,
Yeah.
you're in many cases it depends, but rental property, because you're renting it out, in addition to you getting money from the property appreciating in value, you're
Yeah.
also getting a monthly rent that you're collecting from your
Yes.
tenants.
Yeah.
So you continue to increase your net worth because you're fighting very forcefully against the rate of inflation. The only thing that's deflationary is the vehicles that you own,
Yeah.
right? Because they just go down in value. However, the company truck and the trailer are an investment that is going to grow in other ways. Even though that the vehicle itself is depreciating, you can write off some of these things when you file your taxes so
Yeah.
that rate of depreciation is lower than it would normally be with a personal vehicle.
Yeah, with the trucking, like last year, me and my husband, we made same amount of money, but for him, like we can show so much in expenses. So, of course, the business is not as high tax as our W-2 forms are. So,
Oh my God. Did you know this number was as high as it is? Like, I need to
no,
zoom in on
this
this.
is like
This is
somebody, you're the one
what
who's, you're the one who's telling me I'm a millionaire. Just
you are. This is crazy. And the fact that you only have this much in liabilities is even wilder to me.
Yeah. I just don't. I am like, that's my brain setup. No
Yeah,
loans. Nobody can make money off of me.
yeah.
I will buy whatever I need to buy. And I'll try to get there before I can buy any stuff. And I know my cars are the only pretty much depreciating thing. That's why I don't put so much money into car. I'm all about comfort. Like as far as you can drive me to one place to another, that's all I care about.
Yeah, and we talk about how some of our coworkers are doing so well financially,
Yeah.
but it's like you talk about it as if you're all the way at the bottom and they're all the way up here. But now that I've realized your actual net worth, it puts things into perspective because there's a lot of people that talk highly about their investments as if they're all the way up here. They have so much money. But then when you really break it down and find out how much money they're worth, they have so many liabilities that
Yeah.
actually bring the overall net worth down.
Yeah, people don't consider their home loans, people don't consider their car loans. And yes, of course, if you don't pay off those things, you can have a lot of money. But it just paid off, and whatever you have, that is all yours.
If somebody has questions, ask those questions in the community page because now Sumit has an account there. I
Yeah.
usually ask my guests at the end of the episode, how can people reach out to you? Well, Have no fear. We have an app for that. You
Yeah.
can reach out to Sumit in the community page. Before we go, can you tell me how much you make on average on a monthly basis? Let's go over how much you make and how much you spend before
Oh,
we
yeah,
end.
sure. So, I get paid $132 an hour. I work 2 days a week. I already maxed out my 401k. I already maxed out my Roth IRA for this year. I did in like June. They both are paid off. So, whatever I make, we get to keep as we have no loans, no payments. So, expenses, okay, I would say my groceries is probably the biggest expense. That is somewhere around $1,000 or $1,200 as I have two kids. But that's it. Like electricity with the minimum bills, somewhere around $600 max, I would say. And that's it. Those are the only two expenses we have, right? Groceries and small bills.
What about you don't have a car note? How much is your insurance every 6 months? How much do you usually pay for your auto
Oh,
insurance?
yeah. Actually, my husband take care of that stuff. I don't know exactly, but our home insurance is not even up. So I know it's somewhere around $1,400. That's
Yeah.
I know. Yeah.
What
And
about childcare?
I'm sorry, what? No childcare. I get to take care of my own kids. I don't need to pay
Wait,
nobody
hold on
to.
a second. How much does it cost to put them in school, like the daycare?
You know, uh, actually, okay, there is a state program. If you don't make enough money, you do qualify for it. And right now, I'm not making enough money to do qualify that I need to pay something out of my pocket. So I did qualify for the program because your total income has to be minimum $11,000 a month, and my husband's business. So most of the time we depreciate, so he pays kind of no taxes, and the only income we have is my income. So we did qualify for a program, so we have no daycare. Even they go preschool for 3 hours. They just did last month, and we pay no childcare.
So, how much are you earning on a monthly basis?
So right now my paychecks are around somewhere 62.34. This number is on and off, and after taxes sometimes I go home with like 5,200 or somewhere around that number. So I would say total somewhere like within a month, I would say somewhere in between 7 to 9,000. I haven't looked into it since I paid off my 401k and Roth IRA, so those are completely paid off for this year. So I did not calculate it.
Yeah.
But
And last year, how much did you earn?
last year I made
Wow,
$263,000
that's crazy.
working in Kaiser.
Oh my God. All right, we're gonna leave it at that. If you guys want to reach out to Sumit, please do so in the community. Both her and I spend our time there, but she spends way more than I do because I'm the one that's uploading these YouTube videos, the Instagram videos, the TikTok videos. And we're both also updating our newsletter on a weekly basis. So we share a lot of useful information in our newsletter. So if you want to subscribe to that, you can too. Once you create an account through the app, we'll add you to our newsletter and you'll receive all of the notifications.